On New Year's Day, I cooked a big table of food to spend the new year with my husband and children. Unexpectedly, my husband's adopted sister called me with a sentence, "Brother, I'm so lonely here, I miss you so much." My husband left me and the children and drove to another city to accompany my sister-in-law. That night, a huge earthquake occurred where they were. When I arrived, my husband and sister-in-law had been pressed under the floor for a day and a night, before I came to my senses. Mang Chinzhou's weak and hoarse voice came out. "Chen Yan, why are you still standing here? Go and see how Jiao Jiao is. She is pressed on the other side." My eyebrows jumped. How could Mang Chinzhou know? I realized that he might have been reborn too, just like in the last life. Mang Jiao Jiao was pressed on the other side of the floor. She seemed to have just woken up and cried loudly because of pain and fear. "Is there anyone who can save me? I can't stand it." The firefighter checked and pointed out that the two people were pressed down by the same floor. No matter which side was saved first, the injured on the other side would inevitably suffer. As the family of the two, the decision fell on me. Mang Chinzhou stared at me closely, with a firm attitude. "You must save Jiao Jiao first. She is weak and fragile. How can she bear such suffering?" I sneered in my heart, but my face was worried. "Then what will you do?" Mang Chinzhou's face suddenly turned cold, and he said to me in a threatening tone, "Do as I say. If something happens to Jiao Jiao, I will not let you off easily." His cold eyes were filled with hidden cruelty and murderous intent. My mind couldn't help but emerge the process of my tragic death in the last life. Even after seeing my tragic corpse, he still didn't change his mind in this life. I clenched my fists and suppressed the chill and heartache in my heart. Perhaps thinking of her bad relationship with me, Mang Jiaojiao didn't dare to boss me around at this moment. Instead, she said in a tone that was almost pleading, "Sister-in-law, please save me. I know I treated you badly before. That was because I was ignorant. I apologize to you. I will have to dance with these legs in the future. What if they get hurt? Besides, I'm a man, strong and healthy. It won't be a problem if I hold on for a while longer." But I can't. Hearing her say this, Mang Chinzhou's hand stretched out tightened for a moment, but he still used a gentle tone to comfort her. "Jiao Jiao, don't be afraid. Brother won't let you get hurt." Then, he glared at me fiercely and ordered, "Why don't you let them pull Jiao Jiao out?" I nodded and said directly to the firefighters, "Then save my sister-in-law first, please." Hearing this, Mang Chinzhou's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He didn't expect that I would agree so straightforwardly in this life. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but didn't. Mang Jiajiao burst into tears of joy on the spot. Thank you, save me quickly." So the firefighter stuck the jack under the floor and began to push it up little by little. As the floor began to tilt, more weight fell on my husband. He screamed, sweating profusely, and his lips turned white, but he still reluctantly comforted his sister-in-law. "Jiajiao, don't worry, brother is fine." However, Mang Jiajiao didn't care about his situation at all her attention was on herself. Mang Jiajiao was the daughter adopted by her parents-in-law from an orphanage. She grew up with Mang Chinzhou since she was a child. Since I married in, she has been making things difficult for me. She did many weird things to occupy Mang Chinzhou. On the wedding night, she insisted on sleeping between us, saying that she was here to be a bed doll. She gave me allergy-inducing skincare products, but I had to throw them away after my face was rotten with them. She said in front of Mang Chinzhou that I liked to waste, and mocked me for coming from a poor family and having no education. Mang Chinzhou praised my long hair, and the next day she took me to the barber shop and asked the barber to cut it as short as possible. She also said that I was suitable for short hair, which showed more temperament. I couldn't stand it, and left the barber shop directly despite her obstruction. That night, she cried and made a fuss in front of Mang Chinzhou, saying that I made her lose face, and no matter how I explained, Mang Chinzhou was more willing to believe Mang Jiajiao's one-sided words. Over time, he treated me coldly. In the past, I only thought that he attached great importance to this adopted sister and felt sorry for her without a father or a mother. Now it seems that Mang Chinzhou's feelings for her are far more than that simple. At this time, under the joint operation of everyone, the jack had risen to a certain height. Mang Chinzhou's face was pale, and the white shirt under him was dark red, which was very scary. He finally couldn't help it and raised his eyelids to ask, "Are you still not done yet?" I said, "The height over there is enough to pull Jiajiao out." The firefighter also nodded and prepared to pull her out. However, Mang Jiajiao immediately retorted, "No, it has to be higher. My ankle is still pressed. What if you pull me out and hurt me?" The firefighter had never seen such a selfish person and couldn't help but accuse, "Why do you only think about yourself? If you go up any higher, your brother will be crushed to death." After saying that, the firefighter was about to go into the ruins and pull her hand. Who knew that Mang Jiajiao would retract her arm directly and shouted, "Don't touch me. My brother didn't say anything. Why do you blame me? Your duty is to save people, not to preach here. Just do what you are told to do." The firefighter was so angry that his face turned blue. "We are saving the dying and the wounded, but we don't just want to save you. Save people to the end. Send the Buddha to the West. Don't you understand this?" Mang Jiajiao righteously retorted. Mang Chinzhou's expression was twitching and ugly. "But Jiajiao, I really can't stand it anymore." I advised sympathetically, "Husband, why don't you bear it for a while? After all, Jiajiao's legs are so important." You don't want her to have any hidden diseases, right? Meng Jiajiao echoed. Yes, yes. Why don't you raise the jack up a level, Jiajiao? You. At this moment, Meng Qinzhou's expression was wonderful. He stretched his arm towards me tremblingly, his eyes full of fear. Chen Yan, let them stop. I can't breathe. He was sure that I would feel bad, but I didn't move, so I looked at my sister-in-law with embarrassment. Meng Jiajiao was very impatient when she heard what he said. Brother, can't you be a grown man and bear it for a while? Meng Qinzhou looked aggrieved. But Jiajiao, if you keep pressing like this, something will happen. Seeing this, I also advised. Yes, Jiajiao, don't you see the situation here? Your brother has lost a lot of blood. While persuading, I revealed information intentionally or unintentionally. Besides, you can even climb out of the height here, so don't bother your brother. Meng Jiajiao retorted righteously. Don't you see the sharp protrusions on the floor? What if I get scratched? If I get a scar, I might as well die. She was still not satisfied and pointed the finger at Meng Qinzhou. Brother, you are really something. You keep shouting and yelling over there, misleading others. And you don't have any manliness at all. If it's really that serious, how can you still have the strength to shout? At the moment of life and death, she simply didn't bother to pretend. Her mean and selfish nature was exposed at a glance. Meng Qinzhou opened his mouth. I don't know whether it was because of the pain or because he was speechless, but he didn't say anything in the end. He let the floor crush his spine and waist, and the great pain made his pupils lose focus. Suddenly, he looked at me with a pleading look and his lips moved. Although he didn't make a sound, I knew what he was saying. Chen Yan, save me. I knew he had reached his limit. I pretended not to understand, squatted in front of him and encouraged him. Husband, hold on a little longer. Jiajia will be out soon. You don't want her to have any accidents, right? Meng Qinzhou's eyes were completely desperate. In the end, Meng Jiajia was pulled out without any injuries. However, Meng Qinzhou was disabled for life because of the long-term crushing of his spine by heavy objects. The doctor said that even if he was cured, he would still be lame in the future. He even kindly reminded, if you are worried about affecting your travel, it is best to customize a cane. Meng Qinzhou collapsed. As proud as he was, he could not accept such a result at all. There was a dead silence in the ward. He stared at the ceiling with empty eyes and a numb face. I said to Meng Jiajiao beside me, you really have to thank your brother this time. If he hadn't risked his life to save you, how could you escape so easily? Hearing this, Meng Qinzhou's eyes moved and closed his eyes. I said, for Jiajiao, I am willing to do anything. However, Meng Jiajiao didn't buy it at all. She sat on the other bed, picking her nails and muttering softly, you said it was for me, but it was just a pretense. Jiajiao, what do you mean? Meng Qinzhou's face sank. Meng Jiajiao snorted coldly. I heard that you have been asking for help from your sister-in-law. If she really changed her mind halfway, I don't know how much suffering I would have to endure. Meng Qinzhou looked at his sister-in-law in disbelief, his eyes red. Do you think so? The sister-in-law pouted. Then what do you want me to think? Hearing her unkind words, Meng Qinzhou clenched his fists and suppressed his inner emotions. He didn't expect that he would be accused of such a sincere treatment. In fact, Meng Jiajiao has always been very good at disguising herself. Only when her own interests are affected will she reveal her selfish nature. The gunpowder smell in the ward is getting stronger and stronger. Meng Qinzhou kept coughing and gritted his teeth and said, if it weren't for accompanying you, I wouldn't be here. Have you forgotten how I saved you during the earthquake? I could have escaped. But I returned to save you. Meng Jiajiao widened her eyes and stood up directly. You don't want to blame me for everything. How did I know there would be an earthquake? When mom comes later, are you going to say the same thing? Meng Qinzhou's eyes were red. I didn't think so. Meng Jiajiao interrupted him. Things have already happened, and you have become like this. Don't say too much in front of mom, so as not to make her sad. Then, she turned her head and looked at me. You know, sister-in-law, I know Meng Jiajia is afraid of taking responsibility and tries her best to clear herself, so, I smiled and nodded. I understand. Hearing me say this, she was relieved. Then sister-in-law, you stay here and continue to take care of my brother. I'll go back first, then. She picked up her bag and turned away. My mother-in-law heard about the earthquake and flew back from the United States overnight, in the hospital corridor. My mother-in-law looked heartbroken and blamed me for not saving my husband first. Although Jiajiao was also raised by me, she is not as good as my own son after all. How can you leave your husband to save her? My mother-in-law was obviously very dissatisfied with my decision to save my sister-in-law first. I pretended to be wronged and explained, Mom, it was Qinzhou who was determined to ask me to save Jiajiao first, and said that if anything happened to her, he would not let me go. He said all kinds of cruel words. What else could I do? Mother-in-law snorted coldly. Why did you listen to him? Save the person first. And now he is a cripple. Why is my life so miserable? Mother-in-law, who has always been vigorous and resolute, burst into tears at this moment. I sighed. It's really my fault. Jiajiao could have come out at that time, but she was afraid of scratching herself, so she asked someone to push the jack up a distance. Otherwise, Qinzhou might not be in trouble. Mother-in-law caught the information in my words and her expression froze. She grabbed my arm and said, "Tell me the truth about the situation at that time." I pretended to be embarrassed, but Jiajia just emphasized that I should not tell you everything, which would only add to your troubles. How could the mother-in-law, who has been shrewd for most of her life, not know what she was thinking? She snorted heavily. She is not afraid of my trouble, but she is afraid of my accountability. Great, I have spoiled her for so many years, but she has become such a selfish and ungrateful person. Under my mother-in-law's questioning, I told her the whole story, watching my mother-in-law leave angrily. I laughed in my heart. Meng Jiajiao's good days are over. Sure enough, a few days later, Meng Jiajiao came to me angrily. She threw a card at me and asked, "What did you say to Mom? Why did she stop my card?" I held the teacup, speechless. "Then go ask Mom why she stopped your card. Why are you looking for me?" Seeing my calm expression, Meng Jiajiao laughed angrily and slapped the teacup in my hand to the ground. The porcelain pieces broke and the tea splashed. She said viciously, "Why are you pretending? You must have complained to Mom. I told you not to talk nonsense, but you ignored me. Do you know that you are the lowest person in the Meng family? Who allowed you to talk to your sister-in-law like this?" Just then, the mother-in-law's scolding came from outside the door. Full of energy, Meng Jiajia was startled, and the moment she saw her mother-in-law, her arrogance just now disappeared without a trace. Realizing something, she put down her arms angrily. Mother-in-law stared at her coldly and sat on the sofa. "I asked your sister-in-law. Chinzhou had such a big thing. Shouldn't I know clearly?" Meng Jiajiao pursed her lips. "And Mom, I didn't mean that." She didn't dare to refute her mother-in-law. After all, her mother-in-law had enough say at home. Mother-in-law narrowed her eyes slightly. "Who did you say was the lowest person just now?" "I didn't even know that the Meng family had such a ranking." "Then where am I? Where is Chinzhou?" This sentence scared Meng Jiajiao to sweat. In front of me, she can be unbridled. In front of Meng Chinzhou, she can act cute and coquettish, but in front of her mother-in-law, she never dares to act rashly. Meng Jiajiao's eyes turned red with grievance. "Mom, don't convict me based on Xinyan's one-sided words." Mother-in-law snorted coldly. "Do you think I didn't investigate? You really disappoint me," Meng Jiajiao retorted unconvincedly. "It's not all my fault. Why do you vent your anger on me when your son is injured?" Pa sounded crisply. Mother-in-law slapped Meng Jiajiao. Meng Jiajiao was stunned and came back to her senses. After a long time, tears suddenly fell like beads from a broken string. Mother-in-law was so angry that her face turned blue. She took out a stack of photos from her bag and threw them at her. All of them were intimate photos of Meng Chinzhou and his so-called sister. There were photos of them holding hands, eating ice cream together, and Meng Jiajiao kissing Meng Chinzhou secretly. Meng Jiajiao's face turned pale. The mother-in-law snorted coldly. "Don't think I don't know your thoughts. Not to mention that your brother has a family. Your previous behavior of sacrificing him to save yourself is not worthy of him." Meng Jiajiao's face turned pale and she cried, "Mom, I am innocent. You must believe me. If there is anything I admire about her, it must be her thick skin. I am afraid that there will be no one else who can still shout that she is innocent in the face of a pile of evidence." The mother-in-law glanced at her with disdain. "In this case, you are already at the age of getting married, so you might as well get married earlier, so that I don't have to worry too much." Although Meng Jiajiao was extremely reluctant, but at the moment, she could never disobey her mother-in-law again, so she could only nod. "If I meet a suitable candidate. Of course I also want to get married and settle down early, so that Mom won't worry." Hearing her say this, the mother-in-law relaxed her brows with satisfaction. "It's best if you think so." Then she handed her a photo. "I have a suitable candidate here, who is a good match for our family. Go meet him when you have time." The sister-in-law took the photo and saw that it was a man who was not presentable. "I also have some impression of this person. I heard that his reputation is not very good. He spends all day drinking and partying, but he is capable and a business genius." Meng Jiajiao couldn't stand it anymore. Her expression was distorted, and she tore the photo to pieces in anger. "I will never marry such an ugly man." The mother-in-law put the teacup heavily on the tea table. "I have raised you for so many years. It's time for you to repay me. If you don't agree, your card will be suspended forever. Stop until you think clearly." Meng Jiajiao simply tore her face. "Why do you make decisions for me? Why don't you ask my brother's opinion?" Mother-in-law was full of anger. "Because I am your mother. You dare to say that you have no idea about Chinzhou. If you have no idea, you shouldn't use despicable means to seduce him. Now you either marry or get out of the Meng family." "I don't agree." A low voice came from the second floor. Everyone's eyes moved to the stairs. Meng Chinzhou was supported by someone and walked down the stairs slowly. When he passed by me, he glanced at me with a very indifferent expression, and then walked towards Meng Jiajiao. Meng Jiajiao instantly seemed to see a savior, and threw herself into the other's arms, shouting at the top of her lungs, "Brother, I don't want to marry an ugly man. Can you save me?" Meng Chinzhou's eyes moved down. When he saw the photo on the ground, he frowned at first, and then kicked it away. "Mom, you shouldn't force Jiajiao to marry a man she doesn't like." Mother-in-law was a little disappointed. "Have you forgotten what happened to your leg?" Meng Chinzhou took a deep breath. It's not her fault. Watching him defend Meng Jiajiao like this, mother-in-law looked solemn. In fact, she always knew that Meng Chinzhou's feelings for Meng Jiajiao were not pure. But she didn't expect him to fall to such a degree. If it weren't for the experience in the previous life, even I wouldn't dare to believe it. With a bang, Mother-in-law slammed the coffee table hard, the tea splashed all over. You are simply confused. You don't have to go to the company during this period. When you think clearly and break off your relationship with her, I will hand over the company to you. Mang Chinzhou chuckled and shook his head. If I have to choose, I choose Jiajiao. Mang Jiajiao looked up at the man, moved. Mang Chinzhou pulled her up and turned to walk out. Since you can't tolerate her, I will leave with her. When you forgive Jiajiao, I will come back. Mang Jiajiao gave me a provocative look. My mother-in-law widened her eyes and stood up. Chinzhou, your wife is pregnant. Are you going to abandon her and the child and walk away? Mang Chinzhou stopped but didn't look back. Jiajiao needs me more than. The two disappeared at the entrance. My mother-in-law almost had a heart attack. She seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. Leaning decadently on the sofa, I stepped forward to comfort her. She held my hand with a guilty look on her face. If I could have stopped them earlier, there wouldn't have been such absurd things today. In the end, you are the one who is most wronged. I smiled bitterly. Mother-in-law, this has nothing to do with you. Don't blame yourself. Mother-in-law sighed. Good boy. My health is getting worse day by day. If Chinzhou is still so stubborn, I am really worried about the future of Mang's. I held her hand tightly. Mom, if you trust me, just let me manage the company. I will never let you down. Mother-in-law was stunned for a moment, as if she didn't expect me to have such ambitions. She looked me up and down several times and nodded approvingly. Okay. After that, under the guidance of my mother-in-law, I began to gradually understand the operating model of Mang's group. Before I married Mang Chinzhou, I had my own company. Although the scale was far less than Mang's, it was also a listed company. Just because Mang Chinzhou didn't want me to spend a lot of time on it after marriage, I sold the company. Because of my rich management experience and my understanding and familiarity with the company, I quickly learned thoroughly and managed Mang's in an orderly manner. After that day, Mang Chinzhou and Mang Jiajiao never came back once. My mother-in-law was angry and stopped all his cards. At first, Mang Jiajiao frequently posted on WeChat moments, all about traveling around the world with Mang Chinzhou. The two looked carefree and unrestrained, and Mang Chinzhou's icy face was also full of smiles. People who didn't know thought they were on their honeymoon. Mang Jiajiao blocked her mother-in-law, but she didn't block me. Or, she just wanted me to see these, then go crazy and get jealous. Even seeing that I was indifferent, Mang Jiajiao thought I didn't see it, and sent the picture to me privately. Two emoji expressions of covering their mouths and laughing are below. I also didn't respond. I knew that at the rate they spent, they probably wouldn't be carefree for many days. In less than a month, the frequency of her WeChat moments decreased significantly. From the content, I roughly guessed that they didn't have much money. I heard from people in the circle that Mang Chinzhou even found a new job, but he couldn't afford Mang Jiajiao's lavish spending. In order to save money, Mang Chinzhou didn't even do regular checkups. My best friend teased, your husband's injury hasn't healed yet, and he has to go out to make money to support Mang Jiajiao. Don't you feel sorry for him? I flipped through the documents in my hand without even raising my eyelids. Why should I feel sorry for him? He just loves to be cheap. My best friend laughed and said, this is called not turning back until you hit the wall. Your cheap husband wants face. But Mang Jiajiao is different. If she runs out of money, she will definitely come to you. Be prepared. She patted my shoulder and turned away. Sure enough, not long after, Mang Jiajiao called me. He asked for 10 million yuan. I smiled and said, isn't he living a very chic life? He spent all the money so quickly. Even through the phone, I could feel Mang Jiajiao's face turning green and red. Obviously, she was humiliated. She gritted her teeth and said, don't talk nonsense. Call me before this afternoon. I need it urgently. No money. I refused directly. Mang Jiajiao was anxious. Do you know that my brother's wound relapsed and he has been hospitalized? Can you bear to see him have no money to treat the disease? What does that have to do with me? It's not my fault, I said with a double meaning, and Mang Jiajiao was furious. After a while, she calmed her breathing and said in a sarcastic tone, tell me, if mother-in-law knew that you didn't help him, would she let you stay at home as your young lady? I said, oh, slowly, why don't you go directly to mother-in-law? After all, he is her own son. She will not give money. By the way, tell her about my behavior of not helping him and let her kick me out. What do you think? Mang Jiajiao was choked. Of course, she didn't dare to contact her mother-in-law. If her mother-in-law knew, she would cause Mang Chinzhou's old illness to relapse. Mang Jiajiao would be skinned alive. You will regret it. She hung up the phone in a rage. Recently, my mother-in-law's heart disease has become more and more serious, and frequent medication has not improved. She can only go to the United States again. Before leaving, she couldn't bear it after all, and called Mang Chinzhou. She said that as long as he was willing to give up Mang Jiajiao, the company would still be under his control. However, Mang Chinzhou continued to be tough. Unless you accept Jiajiao, I will not compromise. My mother-in-law was completely disappointed with him and never cared about him again. At a company dinner, I happened to hear the people next door talking about Mang Chinzhou again. He said that he has now fallen to the job of a car salesman. Originally, with his qualifications and abilities, even if he was disabled, he would not have fallen to this point. It was because of a negotiation with a female customer that was ruined by the jealous Mang Jiajiao. I heard that the female customer's hair was pulled out in large pieces at that time, the big order in hand was gone, and the company fired him directly in anger. Later, after moving to many companies, Meng Jiajiao either thought that some female employee seduced Meng Qinzhou or some female boss had a crush on him. She would make trouble every now and then, and the company was in turmoil because of her, and Meng Qinzhou became a laughingstock in the industry. In the end, he could only start from the lowest level of salesperson. However, the speed at which he made money was far less than the speed at which Meng Jiajiao spent money. He had to ignore his illness and take on several jobs. When I was 7 months pregnant, I went to the hospital for a prenatal checkup and met him by chance. After not seeing him for a few months, Meng Qinzhou was much thinner than before, and he was less high-spirited and arrogant than before. The expensive suit was worn out, and the million-level watch on his wrist was gone. He just held his waist and limped forward. Meng Jiajiao was not with him. I noticed that most of the medicines in his bag were painkillers, and he could not even afford special medicines. Hey, isn't this Mr. Meng? 2 or 3 figures suddenly appeared at the corner. I remembered that these people used to work at Meng Group and were all veterans of the company. At that time, Meng Qinzhou had just taken over the company. As the saying goes, a new official starts with 3 fires. In order to establish his authority, Meng Qinzhou fired several people directly on the grounds that they did not complete the targets he issued within the specified time. Even though my mother-in-law helped to plead for mercy, it did not change his mind. He said, "I only look at ability, not personal relationships. Since you can't create value for the company, you don't deserve to occupy the company's resources, let alone be cultivated by the company." At this time, seeing them, Meng Qinzhou also stopped and had no expression on his face. Several people looked at each other. "It's really you, Meng Qinzhou." One of them snorted coldly. "I heard some rumors before, but I didn't expect it to be true. He abandoned his pregnant wife for a slut, and now he has fallen to this point. He deserves it." Meng Qinzhou grabbed the man's collar and said gloomily, "Who do you say is a slut? Keep your mouth shut." Although he was badly cheated by Meng Jiajiao, Meng Qinzhou, who was in love, still did not allow anyone to insult her. After all, Meng Jiajiao was the white moonlight in his heart. The man was not afraid at all and pushed Meng Qinzhou out fiercely. "The slut is Meng Jiajiao, don't you know? That woman is famous now. She almost broke her waist to lick the rich. I have her video on my phone. Do you want to see it?" Meng Qinzhou's eyes were red. Jiajiao works in a dance organization and makes money cleanly. Don't try to slander her. Which dance organization works night shifts? To tell you the truth, there are several bosses I know who have slept with her. The man's words pierced Meng Qinzhou's heart like a blade, bleeding and hurting him so much that he could hardly stand. During this period, I also heard some rumors about Meng Jiajiao. I didn't expect that Meng Qinzhou was covered up by something that almost everyone knew. Is it that he never found out, or that he didn't want to, and didn't dare to think about it? He didn't want to accept that the woman he had given his heart and soul to, and would rather break off relations with the Meng family to protect, was not worth his efforts at all. Meng Qinzhou obviously didn't want to say more to them, so he left directly, but was pushed back by the other party. One of the young men snatched the bag from his hand and poured out all the medicine. "Hey, why do you buy this medicine one by one?" The others laughed, and Meng Qinzhou was enraged and punched the other person in the face. The other side was not to be outdone, and they all came up to punch and kick him. "You think you are the high and mighty Mr. Meng, you cripple, dare to attack us, damn it, beat him to death, anyway. Our lives have been ruined by him, so we will beat him until he kneels down and begs for mercy." As the saying goes, a tiger in the plain is bullied by a dog, and a group of people surrounded Meng Qinzhou. Meng Qinzhou was pressed to the ground by them and beaten severely. His arms and legs were all bruised and bloody. The other people in the hospital were stunned and gathered around to watch the excitement. It was not until the security guards came that the people who gathered to make trouble were pulled away. Meng Qinzhou squatted down tremblingly and picked up the medicine on the ground bit by bit. At this time, the assistant who helped me get the list found me. When she saw Meng Qinzhou, she shouted in surprise, "Isn't this Mr. Meng?" Meng Qinzhou froze and looked up at me. When he met my eyes, he lowered his head in panic. He left quickly from the corner. "I didn't call him. How did Mr. Meng become like this?" The assistant was very sad. Looking at his miserable appearance now, I felt a sense of inexplicable refreshment in my heart. Meng Qinzhou, compared with the pain in my last life, this is nothing. I gave birth to a child abroad. On the one hand, it was to take care of my mother-in-law. On the other hand, because of the memory of my last life, I didn't dare to stay in China. Fortunately, the child was born safely. Looking at the little man in my arms, I couldn't help but burst into tears. In this life, he is finally no longer a cold corpse. My mother-in-law's illness is getting worse and worse. Looking at the various declining indicators, the experts are also confused. Finally, I found clues in the bottle of heart disease medicine that my mother-in-law brought from China. I heard that other things were added to the medicine. I suddenly remembered that Meng Jiajiao had also added ingredients to my medicine, but because of her obvious difficulties, I had long been wary of her. As soon as I found that the medicine was wrong, I threw it away. After that, I never let her touch my things again. I told my mother-in-law about this, and her face was solemn, and she had a rough guess in her heart. Sure enough, the results of the medicine sent for testing came out soon. The toxin in this medicine has the effect of violently stimulating the heartbeat. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. My mother-in-law was so angry that she spit out a mouthful of blood and became critically ill that night. I raised her, but I didn't expect her to be so vicious. She wanted me to die a long time ago. My mother-in-law regretted it. I know Meng Jiajiao's motive for doing this, not only because her mother-in-law would hinder her and Meng Qinzhou, but also because her mother-in-law's strict requirements on her made her feel depressed and unable to release her nature. What's more, if my mother-in-law is gone, Meng Qinzhou, as the only heir, can smoothly go back to inherit the huge family business, then kick me out, and she and Meng Qinzhou can be together without scruples and enjoy wealth and glory. Looking at my mother-in-law's pale face, I hugged my child and cried. At the last moment, my mother-in-law may feel that she can't hold on. She found a lawyer and gave all the inheritance to my 2 children. She held my hand tightly and asked me to bring Meng Jiajiao to justice. The next day, just after dawn, my mother-in-law passed away. I transported my mother-in-law's body back to China. Then I mobilized people to investigate and finally found evidence of crime in Meng Jiajiao's online shopping account. She had placed orders for such drugs many times. When the police and I arrived at their residence, Meng Qinzhou and Meng Jiajiao were eating in the rental house. The 2 dishes on the table were very simple. When Meng Jiajiao was handcuffed with silver bracelets, she was still at a loss. What are you doing? Why are you arresting me? The police showed their ID and said, Meng Jiajiao, you are under arrest for suspected intentional homicide. Come with us now. Meng Jiajiao was completely stunned. Until she saw me, her expression suddenly changed and she cursed, Chen Yan, you bitch. What are you talking about to harm me? Meng Qinzhou also looked at me with a gloomy face. Chen Yan, what do you mean by this? He noticed my flat abdomen and looked a little dazed. I sneered, Mom is dead. Do you know? Meng Qinzhou's face suddenly changed. What nonsense are you talking about? I threw the collected evidence documents directly at him. Meng Qinzhou's pupils trembled as he flipped through them. I said, Meng Jiajiao had added something to Mom's heart disease medicine a long time ago, which led to Mom's death. I have already shipped the body back to China. I will hold a funeral after Meng Jiajiao is brought to justice. You can come by then. Meng Qinzhou's face turned pale. Seeing this, Meng Jiajiao screamed, Brother, don't believe her. She is trying to sow discord between us. She broke free from the police, rushed forward, and grabbed Meng Qinzhou's trouser leg. Brother, I would never do such a thing. Please save me. Meng Qinzhou kicked her away, his eyes full of despair and anger. Meng Jiajiao, I am really blind. If I had known you were so vicious, I should have let you die during the earthquake. Why should I save you? Why should I end up like this for you? What did I do wrong? It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be like this. Meng Qinzhou's eyes were dull, and he murmured, in the end, Meng Jiajiao was sentenced to death with a reprieve for intentional homicide. She will spend the rest of her life in prison. When Meng Qinzhou came to the funeral, everyone looked at him with contempt. He looked through the crowd at the child in my arms, with an indescribable complexity in his eyes. I guess he saw a baby in his previous life, but it was in a trash can. Meng Qinzhou came in front of me. He opened his mouth. Chen Yan, can we start over? I looked at him coldly. Do you think it's possible? Then I asked my assistant to take out a divorce agreement and handed it to him. Sign it. Meng Qinzhou's voice trembled a little. You want to divorce me? Impossible. I won't leave you and the children. I sneered. When have you ever cared? Even if you don't sign, I can sue for divorce. It will be unpleasant at that time, which will be bad for everyone. Meng Qinzhou opened his mouth, looked down at the agreement, and suddenly his expression turned cold. 200,000. I can only get 200,000. Are you kidding? Perhaps he had enough of the hard life. Meng Qinzhou broke down. I sneered. Then ask Mom. She gave all the family property to the 2 children before she died. She had given up on you a long time ago, and this 200,000 is because I pity you for our past relationship. Meng Qinzhou tore the agreement to pieces. His expression was crazy. Chen Yan, everyone makes mistakes. You can't do this to me. If my mother were alive, she wouldn't allow you to do this. I laughed and said, it's a pity that she died. She was poisoned by your beloved sister. Meng Qinzhou was stunned. To prevent him from making trouble, I asked the security guard to drag him away. When he was dragged to the door, he suddenly went crazy and rushed towards me. He hugged me. You love me so much. How could you divorce me? How can you bear to see me suffer? You just want me to regret it and let me come back to you. Don't act anymore. Admit it. You, Chen Yan, can't live without me in this life, as the family of both of them. The decision fell on me. This Lin, he obviously knew everything, but he relied on my love for him to hurt me again and again. I remembered that in my last life, I was humiliated by gangsters and was dying. I begged him to save my child, but he sneered, you, a vicious woman. What qualifications do you have to give birth to my child? You killed the person I care about most, and I will also take the life of the person you care about most. In the pool of blood, I opened my mouth, vicious. But I was clearly trying to save you. My vision became increasingly blurred until I was completely plunged into darkness. The security guard dragged Mang Chinzhou out again. The people attending the funeral whispered to each other, all mocking and sighing at Mang Chinzhou's current situation. I filed for divorce and successfully got him out of the house. On the third day after the verdict was issued, someone told me that Mang Chinzhou was dead. They said he got drunk in the snow and froze to death. After all, we were husband and wife, so I went to help him collect his body. The moment I saw his body, the fear and bad memories that were weighing on my heart finally dissipated. The winter is gone, and the stars are shining forever. In this life, I welcome my own spring.